Let's be real. At some point, every man goes soft during sex, but it is about how we react that makes all the difference. Quite often, there is an intense emotional reaction from either partner, but what we're going to show you today is how to do something different.
We are going to actually show you to, instead of freak out, manage it like a pro, come back to the situation with confidence, and make it even better than it was before.
Yeah, so this is exactly about what to do if he goes soft. So whether you're a female watching this and it's happened to a man that you've been with, or whether you're a guy watching this and you freak out because it's happened to you, this is going to be a very interesting video. We decided to talk about this because it is a topic that is often avoided, yet it happens to most of us. So it's really important that we actually normalize this and share what to do. So in this video, Dr. Tangie and I, we're going to be sharing our personal experiences of when this has happened. We're both going to be getting into the details here and sharing the raw and real experiences, why this happens, and then also what to do about it. So first of all, I'll ask Dr. Tangie to please introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Dr. Tangie. They call me the sex doctor. I am a board certified clinical sexologist, sexual health educator, and surrogate partner therapy facilitator. And this is all I do. I am actually a specialist in male sexual health. So this is among the concerns that I hear from men every single day who come to my practice with the eternal concern about their performance and what accompanies it, which is the performance anxiety. So I am actually very happy, Shay, that we're going to be talking about this because this is a question, a concern, a worry, a fear that plagues men.
Yes, very true. And I'm Shay. I'm a men's coach. I specialize in helping men overcome erection challenges and sexual performance anxiety. So I've worked with guys in every continent around the world, apart from Antarctica, to be able to help men fix sexual performance anxiety. And why this started is because I experienced it myself. So in this video today, especially talking about what to do when we go soft, I can absolutely talk about this from first-hand experience. By the way, if you like what we're saying today, if you want to check out a bit more of either of the channels, you'll find the link to our YouTube channels in the details section below.
We don't talk about this enough. And the problem is that, at least from clinical experience, guys come in and they don't know that this is actually normal. They don't know that this happens to probably most men in the world, especially after a certain age, and regardless of whether or not they're excited, they're in love, they're aroused. So there's a lot of mystery around this topic. And I really want us to bare our souls, be very real and very authentic when talking about this topic, because I think it's going to help a lot of men, but also women who do not understand when this happens to men, and they need to hear this message.
Okay, so I will start off with a couple of times I'm going to share where this has happened to me, and I'll try and give as much relevant details as possible, just to share what happened, how I was feeling in that moment, what was going through my mind, and then Dr. Tangie is going to do the same thing. And then I think that will lead us nicely onto what happens in a guy's mind when this is happening and what happens in a female's mind when this is happening. So the very first time, I've never actually spoken about this before on YouTube. So the very first time that this ever happened to me was actually the first time when I went to have sex. Now, this was a bit of I think this happens actually with many guys because we feel quite nervous. We've never had sex before. It's the first time. It was in a bit of a weird scenario where I was around a friend's house, and then I say it was unfortunate in that moment, but actually it was like, thank God, because I didn't actually really want to have sex with that person in the moment. My friend's mum basically almost walked into the room, which interrupted the whole thing. But right before that happened, it was just not happening. Like I was not able to get hard. And it was kind of a godsend actually that my friend's mum interrupted, because it meant okay, that could just be cancelled. So that was the first time. But I think the reason why I mention that is because I think it's normal. We can often, as guys, think back to the first memory of when we had sex and things didn't go to plan. And I thought it was important to mention, because this is where some of the seeds can be planted around what if it happens again, it happened the first time. So sometimes guys experience it from that moment onwards. And certainly guys that I work with, some of them can feel like sex has just never gone to plan for them from the very first time. So I think it doesn't really take much for us to get into our mind that we have a challenge around this. But for me personally, that wasn't my stories. And from that moment onwards, it was always a problem. No, there were many years of everything being fine. And then as I, let's say, as sexual performance anxiety started to take its toll, then this started showing up a lot more regularly. So there are many different examples that I could share, but I chose the one that was the most intense of when this happened. And it was actually in a threesome situation. So the pressure felt triple the amount. And I literally just couldn't get hard. And I was so, I felt many emotions in that moment. I felt totally ashamed. I felt like, I'm trying to like put myself back there right now. I felt like, oh my God, I've got to, like, I need to get my shit together. I need to just calm down. I need to figure out what's going on so that I can just refocus. And I was making up the excuses of like, I just need to go and get some water, or I just need to go to the bathroom. And literally nothing was going to happen. Nothing was changing. I felt like there was absolutely nothing going on down there. And I was just so embarrassed in that moment. I felt like I just wanted the ground to swallow me up and just to be out of that situation, because it was a moment that I really wanted to enjoy. And in my mind, it was just, it just wasn't happening. My body was like, no, absolutely not. And so, yeah, I don't think there's many other words to describe that apart from embarrassing, awkward. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know why that had happened. I felt so out of my comfort zone, and I just wanted to like run away from the situation, and I couldn't because it was in my own apartment, so I couldn't run away. But it was just, it was really awkward and embarrassing.
Wow. Well, Shay, you said something that I have heard so many times before, and it is the first time of sex, the sexual debut for guys. So let's start by saying that we don't have positive models about what a sexual debut should look like. So when we are going to have sex, or we envision sex, we envision a story of prowess and success and pleasure and bliss, because that's what we see in the media. Obviously, with the advent of readily available porn, that's what we see. We see stories that start with a penis that it's ever hard, and it continues throughout until the guy ejaculates. And even then, you never see the penis really getting soft. When the scene ends, the penis is still ready to go, ready for another round. And so everybody is just expecting this magical moment of this sexual initiation that's going to be absolutely magical and perfect. And many guys have actually told me, I don't even know if I actually had sex that night. It was under pressure. It was in a very inconvenient place. There was something or some element of danger or surprise, meaning probably in a school ground, maybe at a friend's house or at your girlfriend's house, with the possibility of getting caught. So it's a lot of pressure. Maybe even the girl was a little bit more experienced than you are. So there's a lot of factors that lead to a lot of pressure. And then guys say, I couldn't get it up. I don't even know if I did it. I actually don't even know if it went in. I don't know if I actually had intercourse that day. Maybe they did ejaculate, but the penis was soft, which is probably another conversation we should have, that you can ejaculate and still be soft. And so there's a lot of doubt and mystery around these kinds of events when they happen. But then when you know better, like with your second experience when this happened, you were still under a lot of pressure. There's other people, you have to come in and perform. You are the superhero of the story. So you have to come with your superpowers and to be there and be like, oh wow, where did it go? What's happening? And obviously trying to make up excuses because if it's females, the threesome, and I'm not going to pry on the details, but if it's two females, they're depending on you. If it's two males and a girl, probably, you know, they're probably, they can probably fend for themselves, but you are kind of the protagonist, and so it is incumbent upon you to show up and perform. And let me tell you what happens from a female perspective. The first time I actually had sex with somebody who had a soft penis, it was a totally different experience. This guy, who was actually a friend of mine, he had gone through a very hard breakup with a lot of drama. And so after that, he could not have an erection. So he couldn't have an erection, and he tried. He was one of my best male friends, and he tried, and he said, I feel so embarrassed because I just can't have sex. And I heard him not only through his story of the breakup, but also how he was not being successful in reinitiating his sex life and how embarrassing it was and how he was avoiding it and trying to make up excuses when he was with other females and he couldn't perform. And I remember we were in a car, and finally I just jumped on him, basically. I wanted to show him that it was okay, that there was nothing wrong with him, and that he could still enjoy intimacy and sex. And since we had a long-term standing relationship and there was trust, he felt safe with me. I was his confidant, and I knew everything there was to know about him. Actually, when we started kissing and fondling and getting undressed and everything, magically his penis came back from dormant state. And he was actually very surprised. We had sex, no problems. And it's not that I didn't enjoy it. I actually enjoyed it very, very, very much. But I remember telling him at the end, see, there's nothing wrong with you. And it was almost like a teaching moment for me to let him know he just needed to be comfortable and safe
Yeah.
and in a trusting environment for you to be able to be your old sexual self again. And so he came out of the rut. Now, it's happened to me in other romantic situations, not a whole lot. Before I became a sexologist, I do remember maybe feeling what many women actually feel like it is my fault. Maybe they're not attracted to me enough. Maybe they started off good and something put them off. Maybe I have some sort of smell. Maybe there is a body part that they saw that didn't agree with them. Maybe they were disappointed in something that I did. So I didn't know how to handle it because I didn't have the knowledge that I have now. It's happened to me since I became a sexologist. And obviously now I know better. So I focus more on intimacy, on connection, on the pleasure. Because for me, it's all about pleasure from start to finish. It is not about performance, and it is not about a goal. For me, if I am having fun, if I am feeling pleasure, it doesn't matter if you're nibbling on my ear or if you're using your penis to penetrate my vagina. It is all fair game and it is all good. And I am going to show up with the responsibility to make the experience a pleasure one for me and for both of us. So I don't carry that anymore. But I remember feeling inadequate in my sexual abilities, especially when I was starting as a sexual being. I didn't have a lot of experience. And so you carry a lot of like, oh, maybe it is me. Maybe they're not attracted to me. Maybe they're thinking about somebody else that they did it with that did it better. And so it is my fault that they are not having an erection or that they lost the erection at this point. And it's also a complaint that, as I said before, that I get in clinical practice. And so there's a lot of education that has to go on when guys think that they're the only ones going through this, and that if they lose the erection, sex is over.
Yeah. And I think what stands out to me there is the similarities, different types of thoughts, but very similar, in terms of, you know, the guy thinking, oh my God, I can't believe this has happened to me. What's wrong with me? We can see there that was a very similar thought from the female's perspective. Is it to do with me? The guy is then worried, what if I can't satisfy them? The female is worried, what if I'm not satisfying him? And then the guy starts thinking, what if she has been with another partner who did this right and who could do it really good? And the female is thinking, what if he enjoys being with a different partner and he's having to think about that? So you see, it's a very similar set of thoughts that are going on, but we don't ever dare to talk to each other about these thoughts that are going through our mind, because obviously it's so vulnerable, it's so personal, and this moment of sex is really, without going too deep, it's two souls in the most vulnerable thing that there is, I think, in terms of a human to human experience, because it's just nakedness and openness and emotion and pleasure and connection. And so especially when it doesn't go to plan, there's so much internal criticism that both parties are giving themselves in that moment. And actually what's really needed is just some love and acceptance and reassurance from both parties in that moment, which is what we're going to get onto. But I just wanted to reiterate some of the mistakes, let's say, that men can make in that moment. I've made these myself, and these have definitely come up in conversations with men who I've worked with that have experienced this. So we often get frustrated, right? First of all, there's this sense of frustration, or I can't believe this is happening. It's like a disbelief. And then it turns into, honestly, quite often pressure. We try and force it. We try and force ourselves. Now, this is a real mistake to make. And it's actually difficult in the moment because we want to be with the person. We want to give it to the person. So it's really hard not to go into this forcing ourselves mindset. But actually, this is what makes it even worse, because part of what we're going to talk about is why this happens. But to go into that a little bit is to do with our nervous systems in our body, be a reason why this happens. And our stress state, our sympathetic nervous system has been activated intensely. And so blood is redirected around our body. And it means that our dick in that moment is not a critical organ in our body. So our body is changing because it thinks it's in a fight or flight situation of I need to get out of there, right? So it's very normal, biologically, absolutely normal for us to lose our erection in that moment. So when we try and force it, we're going into battle with our biology and we're going to lose every single time. But let me just give me a moment. We can cut this bit out. But when we try and force ourselves, it doesn't work. So we're going to come on to what to do about this instead. But I just want to put a bookmark in this bit here of saying a mistake, probably the most common mistake that I hear men make is, I've just got to focus. I can't think about that. I've just got to stay present. I've got to make sure that this happens. And quite often it doesn't go the way that we want it to, especially when we're in that forcing it mindset.
Yes, I want to definitely highlight that important aspect. I always tell guys that the neurobiology or neurochemistry that is essential for dealing with a threat, it is mutually exclusive than the one that you deploy to be in an intimate and sexual situation. So let's just take simple biology. Under stress, our brains signal to the rest of the body that we need to react. And so cortisol and adrenaline, mostly, there's others, but those are two probably that people know. Cortisol is a stress hormone. It makes us more alert and makes us react. It starts actually being secreted in the body in higher quantity. And adrenaline, which is the one that makes us more nimble, gives us strength. It's actually an anesthetic as well. So even if we're wounded, we can continue to fight or run. And so under that neurochemistry, our body is going to prioritize blood flow to essential parts that are going to help us fight off the threat or protect ourselves from that threat. And so that's going to be limbs, even eyes, our lungs. It's going to be other things. Well, the last thing that you're going to be doing if you're being chased by a tooth saber is have sex, right? You're not like, oh yeah, it's running after me. I'm just going to be here with an erection and I'm going to continue my business here. So that's not what happens. And I always explain to guys, you have the same blood going around your body. You're not producing more blood because you decide that that's the moment for you to be intimate and have sex and have an erection. And so the same blood that is circulating throughout your body at that moment is either prioritized in the flight or fight or freeze, or it's going to your penis. And you cannot have both except for very, very, very little situations in which, yes, some people can be startled, for instance, and have an erection, but that's less probably than 1% of the population. For the vast majority of us, we cannot. And so when we're having sex, we have other neurotransmitters and hormones that are being deployed, and those do not mix. So when you are under duress, under stress, distressed, scared, anxious, you cannot have an erection. You cannot feel aroused. You cannot feel at ease because it's not safe. Your brain is telling your body it is not safe at this moment to sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. It is not safe at this moment to have this female, maybe in cowgirl position, doing me right now because I am all freaking out. Now, guys say, but it's a girl, but it's my wife, or it's my girlfriend, or it's a pussy, whatever. And I say, yes, but for your brain, that hasn't evolved really to differentiate between the tooth saber and the beautiful girlfriend that you have in front of you. If you freak out, it's going to deploy the same neurotransmitters and the same neurochemistry, and it's going to make it very, very difficult for you to be able to relax and transition into having a satisfying sexual relationship. So freaking out is the worst thing that you can do. It's almost, I always tell guys, it's almost like you want to make it comply, make your penis comply by force. Well, if you can't comply under stress, how can you expect your penis to do the same?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you touched on some really important points here, and I think let's move into this section of why does this happen now, because we're already here. So we've mentioned the biology, right? The neurochemistry in the body, the fact that our body is going into this stress state, our brain is giving the alert signal to the rest of our body, and the blood is being reprioritized. So we've spoken about that. The reason why we've both spoken about that is so that if you're watching this and you've experienced, if you're a guy and you've experienced this personally, it's really important to know that there's nothing wrong with your body. There is nothing wrong with you if this is happening. Okay, this is a biologically normal function that is critical to our survival, actually, for this to happen. So that's the first thing. But obviously, it goes without saying, we don't want it to be happening in the moment. So we're going to get onto, after this, why it happens, to then what to do about it instead. So this is one reason. Another reason that I mentioned a bit earlier on is because we're trying to force ourselves, right? If our brain is giving us the alert signals, but we continue to force ourselves, we're going into battle with our biology, we're going to lose every time. A really important word that Dr. Tangie mentioned is safety. Safety. Now, the best, let's say, way that I found to look at this is through a book called Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski. And in that book, she talks about context, the role of sexual context, and how in one situation we can be hard and not have any challenges, but in another situation we go soft. Why is that? Because that's very different from if we've never, ever been able to get an erection across the board, right? Not when we're by ourselves, not in the morning, not if we're with somebody else. That's a different story. But if there are times where we are hard in the morning, or when we're jerking off by ourselves, we're able to get an erection, or with some partners we've got hard and other times we haven't, then there's a broader set of circumstances that's going on here. And I want to keep it fairly simple, but the thing that Emily talks about is what is the context in which we're having this moment of intimacy? Is it in a place that Dr. Tangie said where there's a chance that we could get caught, or we don't exactly feel comfortable, and maybe that we're too hot, we're too cold, or there's too many distractions, or we've just had a really tough day at work and our mind is spinning, and then we're expecting ourselves to perform all of a sudden, or we've had to do the whole routine of coming back from work, cooking dinner for the kids, putting the kids to bed. That was a really difficult moment, settling the kids, and now we're expecting ourselves to just be able to all of a sudden perform. So these roles of context, it could even be that it's a Valentine's Day, or we're on holiday somewhere, and we've put pressure on ourselves as the man to think, right, I've taken them away to this really special place. I need to be able to give them amazing sex tonight so that they feel great about this whole experience. You can see here there's multiple different types of context, situations that we can put ourselves in that are actually broader than just sex. This is really important that we broaden the reason as to why we're trying to figure out why this is happening. We have to look at beyond sex as well as part of the equation. What else is going on in our life or in this moment in time that could in some way, shape or form be playing a part of why I may be putting pressure on myself. And these moments, these different situations of work, the kids, the holiday, Valentine's Day, it's pressure, and our body is perceiving that as unsafe. So this is why safety is a really important word.
Yes, absolutely. And you mentioned something very critical. And I've been in that situation, and I've also heard it so much from men and even women. I'm on vacation, so I have to have sex.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's so performative, and sex can be so performative that basically the context matters. And so when we're at home, if it happens, maybe not a big deal. But if I'm on vacation, if I am a night out, if we're staying at a hotel, special events that basically shout and scream at us, we need to be having sex and this needs to end in sex. And there's that pressure from the onset, even before you know categorically that you're going to have sex, you impose that expectation that the night should end with sex because we went out, because we had a romantic dinner, because we're on a romantic trip to Italy, because we went to a nice restaurant, et cetera, et cetera. And so that expectation can be so high that you're setting yourself up for failure even before you finish the night, just because of the performance anxiety that expectation is going to elicit. And you don't know it, but you're basically prepping, and you are, as with each passing moment, hour, that performance anxiety continues to increase, and you go into the situation already worked up, already in high gear, already thinking this must go well, otherwise I am a failure. And that's a very, very high standard to chase. I also wanted to say that, and probably we're going to get into this a little bit later, the concept of self-responsibility in this. And it is very important to not blame. And that's what we're also trying to say today. Instead of blaming, finding solutions and giving people tools to manage these kinds of situations in the best way possible. But I actually made a video, I think it was about 2 years ago now, I made a video about all the reasons or all the excuses that guys make when this happens to them. And so when they lose the erection or they can't have an erection, and one of the excuses is, oh, it is her fault.
Yeah.
And so she is not either well groomed, she has a nasty personality. I've heard that. Well, she's not a pleasant person to be around. And so basically, context again, if you are in a situation in which you feel like you cannot be authentic, like you're not safe, you cannot trust the other person, you're in conflict with the other person, and you have made choices to be in a relationship that is not really meeting your needs, in which you cannot unleash and be yourself, it is very hard to, again, be having erections under those circumstances surrounded by that context. So we also have to be real, and we have to have that inner dialogue in which we take responsibility for this, and we see the context under which this is happening. We see how we are contributing to this, putting pressure, and here talking from a female perspective as well. If this happens and I make you feel like, well, there's something wrong with you, well, obviously it's not me, I'm ready, so this is all you, and I start criticizing and I start blaming and I develop a negative attitude towards it, then that's also setting yourself and myself up for failure. I have heard from guys, this is not my personal experience, but I'm sure with all candor that I've been there, that I've done that in my previous life, that I've said, or women say, well, we can try, but we know what's going to happen. Or, well, we know where this will lead, but sure, we can try. So basically, we start the situation already with an ominous outcome in mind, and we become the self-fulfilled prophecy that is our worst enemy materialized in front of us.
Yes, indeed. And I just want to add a couple of things onto that. I'm coming back in a moment to the word blame, because this is a really important point here. A couple of things that guys have shared with me in terms of reactions have been, oh, is that it? You know, from the female's perspective, female reaction saying, is that it? Or is it because you're not attracted to me anymore? Right, which obviously increases the pressure. And also from the guy's point of view, I've heard, you know, she didn't smell in the way that I liked, or she didn't articulate her words very well. These are all things that I've heard. Or if she doesn't accept me for this, then she's not the right person. Okay, why do we say this? Why maybe the guy saying things like this, and why the female may be saying things like this? And this really comes back to this blame word. But why are we doing that? Because I just want to make this normalize this. When we're experiencing this, as we said, this is a highly vulnerable moment. Sex is vulnerable as it is. Then when it doesn't go to plan, it's vulnerability times 100. So in that moment, we want to externalize the pain that we're feeling and push it onto somebody else, to blame, because we don't want to feel the discomfort of our own pain. And this is where we come into more of a mindset game here. We don't want to feel the discomfort. This is my belief. We don't want to feel the discomfort of our own pain. And so we look for opportunities to outsource, to externalize, to push that pain and blame and shame onto other people. If they weren't right, or if they don't accept me for this, they're not the right person, or is that it? You know, these types of harsh voices of criticism is because ultimately we don't want to feel the level of difficult emotion that's come up in that moment, and also the fact that nobody's really shown us how to do that. This is a different topic, but how to work through these situations is what we're going to come on to. And part of that is learning to realize in that moment, yeah, it sucks. This isn't ideally what we want to happen, but it's also absolutely not the end of the world in this moment. There's plenty of other things that we can do right now. And this is what we're going to move on to shortly, is how to navigate this instead. But I just thought it was a really important point that you made around the blaming and the shaming. And why do we do that? Part of the reason why is because we feel highly uncomfortable and we don't want to feel that discomfort. So we look for ways that we can push it onto somebody else. It's their fault. It's not my problem. It's to do with them. Another thing that I wanted to mention is, why does this happen? So we've spoken a bit around why this happens, but a couple of points that we haven't covered yet. Number one, if this is happening across the board, okay, so if you are not experiencing morning or nighttime erections, if you are not experiencing erections during sex, and if you're not experiencing erections when you're on your own masturbating, it's important to go and seek medical advice. And anyway, I would say regardless, if we're experiencing erection problems, it's always important to just go and get medical checks done to make sure from a health perspective, from a physiological point of view, that everything is okay. Most of the times it is. This is definitely my experience. Most of the times everything is okay from a body point of view, and it's more of a mindset game that we need to work through here. But it's important to do that, especially if we're experiencing erection challenges across the board, all of those scenarios. The other bit that I wanted to mention, though, is let's imagine that we're not talking about that, experiencing erection problems all the time, 24/7, that we're talking about there's the occasions where we go soft. Two scenarios that often come up with guys when I'm speaking with them, because I think we often give ourselves false expectations, like what you said, Dr. Tangie, around what we have access to watch online, and that the dick is always hard. We never even see in any of these movies the dick being soft at the beginning and then going hard. It's just immediately hard, ready to go. And like you said, even at the end, ready for round two. So we have these unrealistic comparisons. And what that means, how this shows up in certain specific moments in the bedroom. Imagining when we're on the bed kissing, there's tension building, the guy's hard, both people want it, and then our partner says, I'm just going to the bathroom for a couple of minutes, I'll be back. This is a very normal thing to happen. But the guy in that moment then starts freaking out. I've experienced this, and many guys I've spoken to have experienced this as well. Oh my God, I've got to stay hard. She's in the bathroom, or he's in the bathroom, whoever is in the bathroom. And what if they come back out and I've gone soft? They're going to think that I'm not ready. They're going to think that I don't want it. I must be able to maintain my erection in that moment. That's one example. Another example is when we go down on our partner. All right. So let's say they were going down on us as a guy, and now we're going down on them. And it's absolutely normal in this moment for us to lose our erection, the level of erection, but yet we think, I've got to stay hard. As soon as I finish going down on them, I've got to immediately be ready for penetration. They need to see that I'm ready. And this is all false. This is all false, but nobody tells us this, that it is absolutely normal for when our partner goes to the bathroom for us to go soft. When we go down on our partner, absolutely normal for us to go soft. Even halfway through sex, depending on the intensity of sex that we're having or the duration of sex, it is normal for our erection quality to fluctuate, and even at points to, yes, go soft, because we just need a bit of a break. But this is not what we see. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well. This is something I hear come up so often around these false beliefs of like, I must stay hard all the time, no matter what, even when there's no physical stimulation going on.
Definitely. This is a very, very damaging myth that for whatever reason guys have acquired, and women as well. Women have the belief that men have to be always erect in order for them to be attracted to them or to signal that they're ready for sex, that they want them, etc. And so both have this misconception that erections have to have full tumescence, full rigidity from start to finish, and even before we start, and again, even after we finish. And so, and there's a sense of like triumph. If you talk to guys and even women, wow, it was so hard. And even after he came, it was still hard.
Yeah.
And there's like a celebration about it. And so a few things here, a few thoughts. Number one, you're still young. Most of the population that I see in clinical practice, they're probably 50 and up. And so by that time, there's not only changes in the physiology, changes in the body that are just normal parts of aging, but also a lot of guys. And if you're hearing me here, please do everything in your power to stay metabolically healthy. So metabolic syndrome is something that most guys after 40, 45 years old will start to notice. They will start to have maybe high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high triglycerides, fatty liver, high levels of inflammation in the body, maybe developing prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, which are the markers for metabolic syndrome. And when you have metabolic syndrome, you're not going to have the efficient erections that you had at 18. And so, and usually I would say, I don't know, maybe 80% of the guys, maybe more, will develop some sort of metabolic challenge when they age. And so also pelvic floor muscles, which is maybe another conversation. I don't want to get too technical here, but the pelvic floor muscles are the structure, kind of, I call it the scaffolds or the foundation even, and they support your reproductive organs and your internal bowel or and lower bowel organs. And so when those muscles, as a result of aging, obesity, maybe squatting too deep in the gym, maybe motorcycling, bicycling, sitting for too long, those muscles get stretched out. And so you are able to have erections, but you cannot sustain erections. And so it is actually very, very common in the aging male to have erections that start, maybe they go a little soft and they come back again. And it's also very normal to have that happening in younger guys. But as you age, the expectation cannot be that your penis is going to be able to have the same performance quality as when you were 18. And what I see here in clinical practice is mostly the grieving process of guys who are like, well, now I lose my erection. I start with an erection, but I lose my erection. And that didn't used to happen. Okay, well, you're 55 or 60 years old. You have all these other challenges. You're just aging. And my main question is always, are you able to bring the erection back? So when you're doing your thing, when you're kissing, fondling, caressing, doing oral sex, nibbling, all the things that you do when you are in that intimate situation and engaged with your partner, is the erection coming back after a while? If the erection comes back after you relax and you do other things, then we know that there's not necessarily an issue that needs further attention. And as you said, if you're having morning erections, if you are having erections when you are self-stimulating, if you're having erections even when you are having coupled sex, many guys lose erection when they're with somebody, but not when they're by themselves. Why? Because of that performance anxiety factor. And so we need to be realistic and set realistic expectations that as you age, your body changes. And having an erection, let's say, let's put 40 minutes as a standard sexual encounter from start to finish. So
And
just
just to be clear, this is like kissing, the build up,
yeah,
not
exactly. From when you
sex.
start kissing and hugging and playing around, let's go into the bedroom, take your clothes off. Let's say it's 40 minutes on a good night. Let's say it's 40 minutes. Well, for you to have an erection for 40 minutes, that's a big effort in the body. Yes, maybe when you were 18, 25 years old, Yeah, the wind blew and the erection was there. You didn't have to worry about it. But the body doesn't stay the same as you age. So it is normal and very natural for the erection quality to fluctuate during a sexual encounter. And it doesn't have to be rock solid hard from start to finish. But as I said in the beginning, what happens is that guys start and they're like, oh, I have an erection. First of all, then they think, I have to put it in a vagina and pump it and ejaculate before I lose it. So that makes it very uncomfortable and dissatisfying for the female because maybe she's not ready for that yet. And that's another conversation. But women, mostly, they have to be ready. They have to have a certain level of foreplay, arousal. The vagina has to be ready in a certain way. And so I hear it from guys all the time. Well, I have an erection, I have to put it in. And so, no, you have an erection, you don't have to put it anywhere. You can enjoy many, many different other things. And so your penis doesn't have to go in a dark hole right away because you fear that you're going to lose it. And then what happens is that they lose the erection and then sex is over. There's a sense of defeat, sense of failure. It's all doom from there. She says, oh, don't worry, it's not a big deal. He feels very, very bad and sad. He doesn't know why this is happening. And sex ends. And I don't even understand why you have to finish at that time when you can continue to go on. And I told you in the beginning of my introduction, I'm a surrogate partner therapy practitioner. And so this is something that hands-on is taught to, has been taught by me to so many guys. If you just relax, if you cuddle, if you focus on kissing and connecting and intimacy and sweetness and romance and dirty talk and so many other things and other parts of the body, you know, our skin is the biggest sex organ, the most important being the brain, but the biggest being our skin. We feel everywhere. You can suck toes. You can suck fingers, you know, you can do everything to the rest of the body and it's as delicious. And so instead of, oh, sex is over because I cannot put my hard penis in that little hole of the vagina when I have 99% of the body still available for play. And
Yeah.
you have 99% of your body still available for play. And so that is very important for us to remember. Guys, if you're aging, it is natural and normal that your erections are not going to respond the same way. Be creative and just don't give up because you feel like you're a failure because your erection went down in the middle of.
Yeah. Okay, this is really important points to touch on, and we're moving into now what to do instead. But a couple of things, and I want to make sure that I remember both of them. So performance anxiety, we'll come onto that one in a moment, of what to do and how to know if it's more performance anxiety that's going on. The other bit that you mentioned around just giving up on sex, yes, this is something that I hear, and I've experienced this myself as well, of like, oh, the erection's gone, it's over. And you see how there we're just reducing sex to one part of our body. As you said, we're reducing sex to one part of our body. And I really like to point out when I'm working with guys, the difference between sex and the erotic. Okay, sex and the erotic. Nobody wants more of the same sex that is shit or it's not enjoyable or where we don't feel connected. We think in our mind, oh, we want more sex, but we don't. Actually, what we want is more connection, more of the erotic, which is about the touch, it's about the anticipation, it's about the taste, it's about the unknown, it's about the desires. Like, this is where the stimulation comes. Sex is just a physical, mechanical act of sex, but that's not what our brain loves and craves. What our brain loves and craves is all of these other visceral, like our senses. Smell, taste, touch, vision, all of these types of things. There's so much more beyond just the penetrative, mechanical act of sex. And yes, it can be difficult for us to see that in the moment. And yes, it takes courage to say, but this is what we can say. Oh, okay, it looks like he's not on board right now, or he's not ready just yet, but I've actually got loads of other ideas that we're going to have some fun right now, or whatever it may be along these lines, you know, where it's not thinking, oh, everything's over and done with. Trying to just bring some lightness to the situation. And if you, the guy, and this is happening to you going soft, then yes, I would suggest lead in. If the female is able to lead in this situation, that's amazing as well. But as the guy, I would say to take ownership of this and to know that it's okay. There's still, especially for a female, there's still so much more pleasure that you're able to give, considering that a female orgasm doesn't even happen from penetrative sex anyway. It's clitoris, as we know. That there's still, well, okay, not in all scenarios, but you know, in general, there's still so much more that we're able to do. That when we reduce it to just the fact that we're not able to maintain an erection and it's game over, it's I feel sad for our bodies when we do that, and for our brain, because it's like there's so much more fun we're able to have in that moment. And do you know what, if I think about with partners, some of the most wholesome moments or most fulfilling moments that I have had, when I think about those memories, it's not even really about, oh, it was just really good sex. It was about the connection. It's about the chemistry. It's about how I felt to be held or to hold that person. Is how I felt with the words that we said to each other, by how we were just able to lay naked with each other or to be silly together. This is the erotic, right? And so when we are in that moment of being highly frustrated because we've gone soft, or because he's gone soft, and we think that's it, it's game over, we're really, really limiting ourselves to a tiny slither of the sexual spectrum of what we're able to experience. And we're able to do a better job than that. We can bring some lightness to the moment. So we're going to come on to what to start doing instead. There's just one other point I wanted to touch on that was to do with performance anxiety. And sometimes it can be, let's say, confusing. There's a lot of information online. We can definitely get into this cycle of watching endless amounts of videos, reading endless articles on this. And it's all quite generic advice. It's not really specific to us personally. How do we know if it's performance anxiety? Generally, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this as well, Dr. Tangie. For me, I believe it's generally if we have the types of thoughts of, I call them the what if questions. What if it happens again? What if I'm not able to get hard? What if I can't satisfy them? What if they leave me because of this? If it feels like we're overthinking and these questions are going around in a loop in our mind, and we want to get out of our head, but no matter what we're doing, we just feel like we're stuck in our minds. If we're thinking about it either days before or moments before intimacy with the other person, and we're picturing it going wrong in our minds, and then we're doing this back and forth of imagining ourselves being a sex god and then imagining things going to shit, and we're sitting on the end of the bed with our head in our hands because we didn't know what to do, we picture the person leaving us. Even if we're experiencing things like an increased heartbeat, a rapid heartbeat in the moment, or sweaty palms and feeling nervous, these are all signs and signals. It's different for each guy, but on the spectrum of performance anxiety, I would say these are all signs or signals that what's going on is more of a mindset issue as opposed to it being a physiological issue.
Yes, absolutely. I tell guys, if that's called rumination, when you have those thoughts and they're racing and racing and racing, and you're kind of not able to get rid of them, especially prior to going into the situation. So performance anxiety, if you have those ruminations or those thoughts that are racing and that don't stop, you have a sense of doom and failure even before you start. You imagine the worst case scenario happening. As you said, she's going to leave me. She's going to think that I'm not in love with her. She's going to think that I'm not man enough. If you avoid the situation, that's something that we haven't talked about, but there's also a lot of avoidance that sometimes happens around sex just because we have this sexual performance anxiety based on going soft in the middle of, and it leads to us saying, well, I'm not even going to try, making up excuses for not having sex, or even starting sex and then making up an excuse. Maybe I'm too tired, I'm too stressed, maybe we'll do it tomorrow, not right now, I'm not really feeling it, I had something big at work. And so if you're having all of those things, besides, as we mentioned before, you can have erections by yourself and from start to finish have an erection until you ejaculate or orgasm, which are not the same processes, but usually happen at the same time for guys. So if you're able to do it by yourself, maybe if you're able to do it with some partners and not others, if you're still having physiologically erections in the middle of the night, in the morning, throughout the day, then we definitely see or can assume that that's sexual performance anxiety rather than a physiological issue that you have.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let's move into the last part of what to do about this then. So what to do instead, instead of they're just giving up and game over, or instead of, as Dr. Tangie said, they're avoiding intimacy altogether because we don't want to deal with the embarrassment or the shame. I think the first thing that I would say from my side of things is easing off these false expectations that we must continuously stay hard, right? There's going to be different bits of advice that I give here, but easing off the expectation of, if my partner goes to the bathroom, I've got to stay hard. If I'm going down on them, I've got to stay hard. These moments where we apply pressure that's just wrong to ourselves, right? Wrong is in based on that's not actually what would happen in a real life scenario. Maybe in a film it's what we see, but not in real life. Okay, the second thing that's linked to that is knowing that it's absolutely normal throughout the duration of kissing, the build-up, intimacy, foreplay, oral sex, penetrative sex, afterwards. It's normal for our erections to fluctuate all the way from semi or soft, semi, hard, back to semi, back to soft, back to semi, hard again. This is normal and it is okay. All right. So instead of freaking out in that moment, it is helpful to say to ourselves, oh, actually, that's okay. And let me just, instead of trying to go into battle with ourselves, I've got to stay focused, I've got to stay in the zone. You see, when we're doing that is we're just thinking about ourselves. It's me. So like me show when we're doing that. But let's take that as a moment of, oh, that's okay, this happens, but actually I'm just going to build things back up with my partner and reconnect with them. I'm not going to freak out about this all of a sudden. Like, I'm trying to think of a different example here of where we would apply calmness to a situation. So it's going to be outside of sex, but let's say with a child, okay, let's say they're learning how to do, you know, sometimes children fall over and then they look back at their parents to see what's my parents' reaction. And then am I going to cry? Are they going to cry or freak out? Or are they actually just going to laugh and get back up and carry on playing again? This is a very similar situation of how we deal with it, right? So if we freak out, oh my God, are you okay? What's wrong? Darling, what happened? Are you hurt? The child is going to start crying and freaking out and getting the attention because they believe from the parents' reaction something's gone wrong. Versus, oh, oopsie, okay, come on, getting down on their level and standing them up, rubbing them off, and then off you go and play, or a neutral reaction. The child doesn't have the same freak out moment. Okay, this is just an example, right? But when we apply that kind of example into the bedroom of, instead of freaking out and expecting, oh my God, this is it, it's all or nothing right now, it's just knowing, okay, I'm not going to freak out over this. This is normal for this to happen. And actually, I'm just going to reconnect with my partner again. Yes, it takes practice to do that, and it takes guts and courage. But going back to what we were saying around, the choice is either limiting or reducing the entire sexual experience down to just penetrative, the act of penetration, or we're able to still stay calm and experience so much more pleasure.
Yes, I want to say concretely, I actually have made a few videos about it. I have some some articles that I have written about it with like the 25, 30 things that you can do without an erection. And so, and I'm sure that I haven't covered all the possibilities, but the one thing that you have to remember is women don't want erect penises. Women want capable lovers.
Amen.
And for you to be a capable lover, you have to be creative. You have to use your imagination. You have to bring playfulness. Women depend on our clitoris to be able to get sexual satisfaction. And so, whether your penis is erect or not, actually, we can continue on and you can continue to feel our vulvas, our labias all over you. We can have orgasms on you without your penis being in our vagina. One of my colleagues says, fingers don't go limp. You can still use your fingers. You can use your lips. You can use your tongue. You can use your mouth abilities. And you can use that all over. I want my partner to show my whole body attention.
Yeah.
I want my partner to kiss my lips. I want them to kiss my ears, my neck, the back of my neck, my breasts, my belly, between my legs, like my inner thigh, the back, my back. Actually, I love my back stimulated. I love my back caressed, kissed, nibbled on, scratched. That's very erotic. I want my partner to whisper whatever comes to his mind in my ear, and that's super, super, super hot. And that can get me to frenzy. And
If
so, yes, whatever's
if
going on in your head, just blurb it out.
if a guy, so I'm thinking about in the situation then, let's say you were with a guy and they went soft. If a guy said something along the lines to you of, okay, maybe that part of me is not ready right now, but I'm about to show you what the rest of my body can do to your body. Would you find something like that hot?
Oh my God. I mean, you just said it. And I'm like, okay, love it. Bring it on. I actually had a relationship in which he had to take breaks after so many minutes, not necessarily because his penis was going soft, but because he needed to like regather himself, maybe cardio. He got a little tired and fatigued and he needed breaks, and he would tell me, and this is the first time that ever happened to me. He was in his mid 60s, and so he would tell me, honey, I need a little break. It's going to be a few minutes. Everything's okay. And he would just lay beside me and he would continue to touch me and talk to me. And I would continue to caress him. And it was actually a good breather, right? It was a nice break. We think it has to be fast and furious from start to finish. And it doesn't have to be. It made sex more interesting because we were always like building up and then kind of letting it settle a little and then building up again and letting it settle. And it made for longer sessions and it made for more delicious sessions because when we got to the orgasm, to the climax, it was so anticipated. We had been playing with it for so long that when it happened, it was like the most beautiful and intense explosion. Well, in my case, I mean, I don't need to wait for that because I can have orgasms from start to finish, and a lot of women can. So, for guys out there, also don't feel sorry for us. There's a lot of us out there who are multi orgasmic, and so we can have orgasms. And so, if you're thinking that you're disappointing us in any way, now you're probably thinking that you can't disappoint yourself, but we are fine. We're having our fun. And again, it is about paying attention to the whole body, really using the mind. I love like role playing, for instance. If you're role playing and you're like, yeah, I'm a sexy cheerleader in your head. Okay, well, let's play it out. And so that can be fun. And instead of you focusing on entering me, penetrating me from start to finish for 20 minutes, well, let's do other things under that scenario. There's a lot of different things that you can do. And so, let me sit on your face for a while and you don't require a hard penis for me to sit on your face.
Exactly. Yeah, this is good. So, okay, let's move into the what to do about it. And we've started covering this anyway. From my side, if you're a guy watching this and you are experiencing this, so if you're having sex or in the build up to sex and then going soft, the first thing, as I mentioned, is to reduce the pressure that you're putting on yourself, particularly around false expectations. So it's very easy to just say, "Oh, stop overthinking," or reduce the pressure. That's We have to know how to do that. Okay, it's not just that we can press a button and all of a sudden we stop overthinking. No, but what I mean when I say reduce the pressure is these unrealistic, specific scenarios when our partner goes to the bathroom or when we go down on them, to stop thinking that we have to be hard all the time. Because if the person's not in the room, or if we're not being physically stimulated in the right way, it's in the same way, not in the right way, in the same way, because we're doing something else, that's normal that we're going to go soft. It's just a fact. And so instead of the freak out, it's about just reconnecting, building things back up. I love the example that Dr. Tangie just gave around when the partner said, everything's okay, just going to take a break for a couple of minutes and we're still going to be connecting with each other throughout that. That's beautiful. That's an A class, like an A game. Like I bought an A game when it came to that, just taking a break, because sometimes even certain positions are intense. So taking a break is also good. The other thing I would say, if you're experiencing this, is to not let this go on and on and on. Like how many months, how many weeks, months, or years do you want to just continue for this going on without speaking to somebody else about it, to get the right set of tools, whatever that set of tools may be, to be able to get this sorted? Okay, you're not alone with this. Many guys experience this. I think when it comes to going soft during sex, most, if not every single guy experiences that at least once, but at multiple points. And so if this is happening for you and if this is impacting your sex life and how you feel about sex, then it's important to talk to somebody who gets it. Because then, yes, okay, although it might feel a bit uncomfortable to have a conversation, the alternative is that this continues. We feel like we have to give up on our sex life way before we even have, like in our 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. We don't even need to be thinking about giving up on our sex life. I think the youngest guy that I've ever spoken to that said to me, I think maybe this is it now, was in his early 40s. Right? Oh, because the body's changing. And there is no expiration date for our sex life. And there's certainly zero expiration date for the erotic. So instead of thinking maybe this is it, or just sitting behind the safety of a screen watching videos, and I'm saying this with love, because I was in that place for years as well, just not wanting to talk to anybody about it and just reading things and watching things and convincing myself that, oh, maybe it will go a bit better this time, or if I can just figure this bit of information out, then I should be able to get it sorted. How long do we want to tell ourselves that for? And for the sake of having a conversation that feels sometimes, yes, a bit uncomfortable, but then in the long term, or even the medium term, being able to just get this sorted so that it's not a challenge anymore. I would say that is the very best thing that I can say to you to take from this, reducing the pressure, but then also just taking ownership and having a conversation with somebody about this.
And definitely with your partner. Have the conversation with your partner instead of making excuses for yourself, instead of blaming, instead of avoiding. Have the conversation. During the hard conversations, there's growth. Say what's happening. Say that this is something that occurs under pressure, that you understand that you have responsibility over it. And again, as I said, from a female standpoint and just from a romantic or sexual relationship standpoint, continue on with the things that don't rely on your erections, that are going to make that encounter a delicious one.
One thing that I wanted to ask Dr. Tangie is for females watching this video and they feel like, what should I do then? How should I react if this happens to my man in the moment? What would you say to to females watching this video in terms of how they could handle this situation or what they should think in their mind?
Definitely the same thing that I said to about men. Take responsibility and ownership. So say, obviously, it's okay. Suggest some other things to do instead of having this sense of doom. Oh, maybe it's me. Maybe it's something that I did, etc. Like we already talked about. You take ownership and responsibility and say, it's okay. We can do this instead. And present to him the 20,000 other things that you want done. Talk to him about where to touch you, how to use their mouth, where, with what pressure, with what intensity. Continue on with the pleasure. The pleasure doesn't have to start because the erection went away. So I want to make that abundantly clear. The pleasure, the sexual encounter does not have to end because the erection is no longer present. So focus on other things. And as females, we can take the lead. And instead of being like, oh, well, okay, well, I guess that's that. We'll try again tomorrow. We can say, oh, wait a minute. Well, what if you touch me right here? Well, can you help me kind of get off? Is it okay? Like, do you want to touch me here? Do you want to kiss? I love kissing. Do you want to nibble? Maybe you offer a part of your body. Maybe you offer to do something to them. It's okay. I can continue on with kissing your whole body. I can continue on with, sucking your testicles, again, having your penis in my mouth, even if it doesn't have an erection. So you can be also creative and show up in ways in which it's going to benefit you, is going to benefit your partner, and is going to make that encounter, instead of a failure, something to relish on.
Great. Okay. And I would say if you are enjoying listening to this and there is a particular topic you would like Dr. Tangie or I or both of us to cover together, then please just put that in the comments, because that's awesome for us to know, okay, this is helpful. These are questions that you want answered, and then we can do that. Dr. Tangie, let's wrap up with where can people find you if they want to hear more or see more?
They can find me in my YouTube channel, The Sex Doctor. So The Sex Doctor, very, very simple. There I am with a lot of tips, advice on sexual matters, especially for guys. And you can find me in my website, texassexualhealth.com, texassexualhealth.com. And there's everything you need to know about me and how to get in contact with me.
Cool. And from my side, my YouTube channel is my name, Shay Doran, and the website is shay-doran.com. And I'll also put the link to the free performance anxiety quiz below. So in the details section, you'll see the link to both Dr. Tangie's channel and website, and also mine, and the performance anxiety quiz is the next step. Okay, so with that said, Dr. Tangie, if there is only one thought that you could leave guys with who are watching this video, I know I'm putting you on the spot a little bit here, what would the thought be?
Well, the thought is definitely what I said before. You're more than your erect penis. I want guys to know their worth, their value. I want guys to know that they are so much more than their erections, that we love your minds, we love your bodies, we love your personalities, we love what you bring to the table.
Wow, yes, I felt that. And I would say my end thought would be, if you're a guy watching this, give yourself more of an opportunity in a moment to show up in different ways beyond just your dick. If you go soft, knowing that's okay, because actually that's one tool that I have in my tool bag, and I'm about to show you a whole load of other magic tricks that I have. Right, bring that version of yourself into the bedroom, because I know it's there. If you're watching this, 100% that version of you is there. Okay, Dr. Tangie, thank you so much for today. This is really fun.
Thank you. It's always so much fun to be with you, especially because you bring that male perspective that I always enjoy. And I always enjoy this energy, this exchange of energy between what my experience as a female and as a clinician in the field is, and what you bring to the table with your experience working with guys one on one, and also in your personal life. I appreciate that.